G2 versus Fnatic happened today, resulting in G2 3-0ing Fnatic, winning another split yet again in the G2 Fnatic Invitational Series, and I'm going to be watching the first game. So, let's look at draft. First thing that stands out is the Thresh, which is something that the LEC is very prone to banning away. Very high priority support. It is very versatile. It has protection for carries. It has engage, counter engage, can act as a front line. So I can see why it's being taken away. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think that there are stronger picks, right? But maybe it's a case of you ban it away once and then you kind of see what happens. Or this might be a case of Hylissang having his most effectiveness on Thresh in scrims and throughout the split. The Lucian is something that Nemesis used to great effect in the previous rounds. Yeah, especially in their match against G2 previously in the same playoffs. It's a dominant laner, so generally it'll have control over the lane. Now, against LeBlanc, I don't know if that's actually the case, and they did end up picking it. It might just be a case of removing it from comfort for a specific player. I guess it could also be flexed into top lane and into AD carry, so there is that bit of flexibility in it. And then the Senna band, it makes sense. This is one of the two supporty kind of carries from the bottom lane, along with Ashe, that is more utility focused rather than purely damage focused. But even over time, Senna scales monstrously. It just doesn't have the same map hack power that Ashe has. Then Caitlyn, Hecarim, and Set banned away. Set is, I mean, technically like 4 position flex, mostly in the jungle and in the top lane, and probably even from those two, mostly the jungle. Squeezing out Jankos is cool. They did ban away Hecarim, and I believe they did this all 3 games. It doesn't really seem to be the style that G2 have, where Jankos would be on a carry farming style champion like Hecarim, but it seems to be something that Fnatic feared, so they got rid of it, I think, throughout the entire series. And of course, Caitlyn is something that generally is going to be permabanned on red side. Pretty oppressive AD carry. If you can trade 2 really strong picks for it, you might be willing to leave it up if they're really, really high priority or very, very important to your composition. But generally, it should probably be banned because it's just too dangerous to leave up. So then the first pick is Ashe. Ashe, as I said, has the map hacks, utility focused, AD carry. Does bring a decent amount of DPS. It's not immense, not to the same degree as Caitlyn or Jhin even. Importantly, Ezreal is kind of completely dropped off. Doesn't have as much damage as Ashe. Does not have as much damage as Ezreal. Probably has less damage than even Shen, unless for most of the game, and then there's a point where Ashe probably tips over at like 3 or 4 items that Lucian cannot kind of reach, because Lucian also has his own kind of plateauing that he does in the game. Of the meta AD carries, Ashe is probably the lowest damage of them, but her stun, her very long range stun, her ability to see the jungle's pathing, evade ganks, uh, keep people safe in side lanes is really, really valuable. Fnatic answer with Nautilus Jhin. I don't understand how Nautilus is that high priority. I mean, I guess if he is, he is, but just seems strange that that's the priority here. You'd expect Fnatic to have a more focus on the carry junglers like Evelynn and Lilia. Although I guess Lilia's not. I don't know if she's really classified as a carry jungler. But Graves also open. Now their resulting strategy would have been very AD heavy if they had gone Graves, but still. I think that not picking a jungler in this spot is a little detrimental, and they didn't really use their red side advantage to save up for support counterpick, which can skew lanes quite heavily. I mean, this is something that has been people have been bawling about the entire season, and I mean for the past 2 years almost, with AD carries being low agency, with a lot of what they do basically being babysat through lanes by supports who are able to go out and 1v1 other AD carries if they can reach them, or previously when junglers were a lot weaker, they could 1v1 junglers. It seems strange that the support counterpick isn't really something that is seen or cared for in this case. But if Nautilus is super high value, then I guess, even though I don't think that actually Hylissang plays Nautilus again. I think he plays 3 different champions throughout this series. So it is a little confusing when you consider that the priority drops arbitrarily and is really high at the start of the series. Although I guess you could argue that the priority on a champion drops as you see the meta that exists within the series, but still. G2 then I guess I didn't talk about Jhin. Jhin is seen as this answer to a lot of the lanes that are being played now. Seems very comfortable into Caitlyn, into Ashe, Senna. Just it's this kind of answer to everything. High damage, not really a tank buster, which is obviously a weakness and something that you have to kind of cover for in another respect, either by having a DPS in another role, or I guess you could build Leandries on your carries, which would help you tank shred to some degree. But the Jhin does have his kind of long range initiation with his ultimate. I guess if you consider it an initiation as well as an execute, can be used in both ways. Eventually, Fnatic pick Gangplank, and when you have the Gangplank ultimate and the Curtain Call, then you're able to target out people, do a lot of damage, especially much later in the game, without having to really interact with them, and they're kind of forced out of situations. But we'll get to Gangplank. The Braum pickup, defensive style support, doesn't really prevent anything. It's not in the face of any particular missiles, I guess. I guess the only thing that it's really trying to block at this point in the draft is the Jhin. So you have to think about how they're reacting. So they're using the Braum as a counter to the Nautilus, as well as kind of blocking away Jin's ultimates, his auto attacks. As well, I guess you could argue, as kind of a preventative measure against the Ornn. Braum is seen as something that is very, very difficult for Ornn to deal with. So I guess I can see it, and then the Shen pickup. This game is actually a jungle Shen. I don't know if I would have necessarily known that had I not already seen it. Um, Even still, if you argue that that versatility exists, then I mean I can see, maybe Fnatic actually already were aware because they're kind of banning top laners even though Shen is of up, which is interesting. So it's clear that perhaps G2, despite saying that they didn't practice it, uh, they were just like, oh, TSM did it, why don't we try it? Uh, so little strange that it gets shown here, and then Fnatic are already adapting to that potential hiccup. But as of right now, if you look at this 3 core, this is fairly low damage. Shen can do well in trades early on. Ashe can win lane, but I mean in terms of team fighting, it's fairly low damage. So they would have to have something to really, really ramp up their damage. Even if this is jungler or support, or not support, or jungler or top laner. So either way, you have to imagine that the mid lane and the jungle pick are going to be, uh, assuming that again Shen is seen as a top laner, uh, that the next two picks are going to be fairly high damage or have some sort of carry potential. Then Fnatic pick the Gangplank. So I mean, there's this obvious synergy here with these two. You kind of avoid running Braum or running Ornn into Braum. There's a decent amount of scaling here with these two. You have the Liandry's build on Gangplank that allows you to kind of deal with the tanks that Jhin can't really deal with. So there's a lot of, and even then, I think that crit generally does well. So Gangplank in general, I think, regardless of his build, would do fine into tanks. Even still, the scaling on Fnatic is obvious. This is how they were finding success in the playoffs. And generally, the Gangplank would do well into a top lane Shen. So then, Fnatic ban Akali and Sion. Sion is the question for me because I just talked about how this is fairly low damage and Sion wouldn't really increase the damage profile of this composition whatsoever. Let's assume that this is a Sion instead. Are they just going to focus solely on everything for perks, or sorry, caps in the mid lane? I mean, I guess they could, but it seems like a wasted ban almost, because the likelihood of going, all right, we're just gonna, oh, you pick Jhin here, well, we're just gonna pick a whole bunch of tanks, and you're not gonna have any fun into a slew of champions into Gangplank. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's a great idea at all, unless Sion is some sort of really good counter into Gangplank, which, I mean, I don't think that makes any sense, but maybe the top laners are more aware of that than I am. Evelynn and Lilia banned away by G2 because Fnatic didn't really pick one in the first three. I think that this is a mistake by Fnatic and a good choice by G2. Nothing really to say here. They're just getting rid of these annoying options for Fnatic to have a carry, a potential carry from their jungle. So that can kind of like match along with the rest of their scaling composition. Then they pick Orianna. So this is a pretty good scaling core, long range setup. Fairly difficult to get inside of this team. There isn't. I mean, Shen, you could argue, is trying to get into this kind of into the back line, into the back line of Fnatic. But I don't know if that's really the strategy for Shen. I feel like he'd just be playing more defensively. Um, I guess we don't really, at this point, we don't really know what Shen's kind of jumping target is. A lot of compositions with Shen try to find a way to put Shen in the team along with an other carry. So in this case, it'd be LeBlanc or Camille can kind of jump into the opposing team using the Shen ultimate as kind of a shield for the initiation, cutting down the damage that you take going into a team, and then you have Shen to taunt them while you're basically in melee range. But as of this point, we only see the Shen. We should only see Ashe, Braum, and Shen. But still, I mean, it's really difficult to get into Orianna Gangplank. Jhin is a bit less so, but I mean, he's still fairly difficult to get into. And then Nautilus is even kind of like a frontline option in that he's by far the tankiest thing on the full Fnatic team. Is he? He probably is. And can kind of act as a CC barrier to stop people from coming in. Which also, when you look at this again, now makes me question the Akali ban, right? Because if you have a decent amount of this kind of setup, and I feel like Orianna is fine into Akali, I feel like you're almost willing to give Akali. And that this should have been a LeBlanc ban, um, and then some sort of carry. I don't know. Aurelia is something that was getting banned all over the place. I haven't really seen it pop off or do super well, or anything that any other champion couldn't have done. So I don't know what. I feel like the missing the LeBlanc ban is really crucial here. Unless they were planning on letting him have the LeBlanc, they kind of like just gave up on their bans here and then just let them LeBlanc through on purpose to like uh, demoralize Caps or something. I don't know what the strategy actually is. Um, but yeah, I mean, at first on these three, you'd say, okay, I don't like the Scion ban, right? Based on what they have, because their damage profile would be really low with Scion, unless it's like lethality Scion. And then you see all four, and you're like, but then how is Akali supposed to even come into you anyway? Are we just assuming that she can just pop off? If that's the case, why are we banning Akali instead of LeBlanc? Why not ban them both, and then now you have to look for another assassin type champion that isn't really. I don't know if they're. Maybe I'm just not being imaginative enough. An other AP, magic damage dealing assassin type champion. Feel like it's in the meta at least. It's fairly limited to Kali and LeBlanc, and I can't actually think of another one right now. I'm sure that I'm just blanking for no reason. But still, seems strange to go this ban route, but also have this four as your core. Then G2 pick LeBlanc and Camille. Obviously, I could also be just speaking in hindsight, but still, LeBlanc and Camille come in. This is high damage assassin, probably the focal point of this team composition. Frankly, snowball through mid, have a. I mean, you could argue that if with a Shen you could have a weak side top laner, but if you snowball through mid and top, or you just have the choice between snowballing between mid and top, then you have you kind of give your river Shen, your jungle Shen, an option to gank across the map. I think that bottom lane is probably. Hmm, Probably should it be Ash Braum favored? I feel like it probably is. So then here you have the Camille into Gangplank, which I don't know if it's a counter, but it can win. Um, and there is definitely, I mean, just like a lot of Gangplank matchups, there is a window where Gangplank could potentially lose and die to it, die to the laner. Is also, if you're willing to go forward or not go forward, go top side, with your mid and jungle, then Gangplank is fairly vulnerable, especially to LeBlanc and Camille, who can lock the Gangplank down. Also, the Camille solidifies the fact that Shen is going jungle because Camille is just not allowed to jungle because Riot said so. Um, Overall, I mean, it's when you look at this composition by G2, you see a very snowbally composition. Obviously, it's the intended play style. They want to really snowball the game and kind of move at their own pace. It's very similar to how they were trying to do it in their last series with Fnatic. And I don't. It seems like in this game that the tools are there and that there's a lot. This is probably their best chance to try this strategy when you look at what they have on their team composition versus what they're up against. And I'll kind of highlight that when I rearrange this or let it get rearranged. Um, then Fnatic finally pick the Gragas jungle. They probably felt that he needed some sort of magic damage in the jungle. They already had a magic damage source in Orianna. It's not necessary. I don't know if I feel like Orianna isn't really ever seen as this primary magic damage source. I mean, Orianna itself is obviously primary magic damage. I mean, as a team, it's not seen as like, oh, we have Orianna, well, we don't need any more magic damage. We're good. I feel like very often Orianna is kind of positioned with other AP building champions or magic damage dealing champions so that all of that doesn't fall solely on the Orianna. Gragas does allow a lot of extra disruption. I mean, when you look at this whole thing, you think to yourself, all they have to really do is hold out and not feed really, really hard. Which can be harder than, just saying it. When they're in formation, when they've gotten to their breakpoints for their items and for their levels, I feel like this composition just hard beats this one. But the difficulty is that it's fairly low agency within the first several minutes of the game. It's losing bottom lane. It's not going to be as dominant top side as Gangplank normally likes it, where he can kind of decide the way the lane is going, control the waves, and then stay as safe as he wants to be, force the opponents to kind of put 3 resources into him, and then he can kind of back off from waves while his team is getting resources on the other side of the map, because Gangplank is able to kind of fall behind in those situations and still kind of ramp up because of his inherent gold generation. The Orianna is a stable pick, but into LeBlanc, I mean, it's possible for LeBlanc to kind of make it a volatile lane, especially with the fact that Orianna is semi-vulnerable to Shen Camille because she isn't super mobile. So I mean, it's very top side focused with the mid jungle and top of G2. Gragas' job mostly seems to be to prevent his laners from kind of falling behind. He doesn't really want to put too much of his time in trying to snowball, because while I guess that might be useful, I don't know if it's enough to kind of shift the dynamics of this of these compositions, right? Because imagine they're able to snowball Gangplank. What is Gangplank now like? Is Camille's gonna feel sad, right? Yes. She's not gonna scale as well, and it's gonna be kind of awful. Is that enough to end the game? Maybe. What setup do you have for Gangplank and Gragas to kill Camille? Feel like it shouldn't happen. Um, and even if it does happen, Gragas generally needs his cask to do it. I would imagine. So even then, you're looking to farm up for the first 6 levels. Same thing with the mid lane. LeBlanc is way too difficult for Gragas to hit up, unless LeBlanc misuses her W. But even then, again, you want the cask. Bottom lane is probably the most potential for a gank, with the setup from Nautilus, with the setup from Jhin. But I don't think you need to do that, especially when you're looking at the players that you have. I mean, Reckless is going to be Reckless and Hylissang. You just tell them to play consistent, play stable, and then they should be able to do that. Um, hmm. Because I'm not a super big fan of needing an advantage to win a game, because I mean it's a simple question as, all right, do I play the Camille that needs to snowball against the Gangplank, or do I play the Gangplank who will always just be Gangplank, and by the time he hits, and if I can reach 3 items, I just like auto win. Um, seems a lot easier to play the Gangplank, but if any team was, and I said this when I was looking at their previous series, if any team can snowball um, against this fairly low agency, I mean, a lot of the agency is going to be on Hylissang, not Hylissang, but the Gragas to prevent the snowball. But when you look at this, kind of one item is going to be very dangerous for G2, and if they can get to those, if they can get to their one item first, then it can be really dangerous. And then it also depends, I guess, on if Fnatic play into those spikes without them having without also hitting those spikes themselves. Because their one item isn't super bad, right? Because I mean, Gangplank and Camille, they hit a Triforce, and they're both feeling pretty good. Gangplank obviously would rather fight with more items. You know, he's sitting there saying, I'll wait for 6 items if you let me." But I mean, Jhin is pretty okay with one item. The Orianna's okay with one item. It's really a lot of this is so. I think a lot of this is on. I think a lot of this is on self-made. A lot of this is on self-made to neutralize the snowball, track the jungler, prevent anyone from dying within the first several levels. If they can look for any type of priority on the bottom lane and translate that into a dragon, I think that's ideal. That's the ideal scenario, right? Where self-made can get a dragon and say, all right, well, we don't have to do anything for the next several minutes. They literally can't win the game without hard snowballing. And in order for them to snowball, we have to be places for them to snowball on. So, hmm. I think one dragon would mean that Fnatic feel really, really good. As usual, I don't remember exactly how the game goes. Other than that, I think that this is generally competitive, and that there was a point where G2 kind of grew. Any case.
And then to round off Fnatic's composition, Selfmade taking.
I personally love playing Gangplank because I feel like he's a very high skill ceiling champion.
Okay, let's just look at the level 1 line of scrimmage. Everyone's pretty much in the exact same spot as their counterparts. Oriana on the top side is interesting. I wonder if that's an adaptation to some level 1, but then she's not really, she's alone up here. Gangplank is here, Selfmate's here, she's somewhere past here. Alright, no, she's like closer to here. You prevent a topside invade or look for vision here, so I guess that's what it is. I don't know if you don't have anyone guarding the mid lane, then someone can kind of slip into an entire team can kind of slip into the fog of war, which is a bit dangerous. But I guess if they don't think that G2 are likely to do that, then that's why it is this way.
Mostly imposed on the player rather than the champion, and I think that makes the champion very endearing for someone that wants to push himself to have the most impact in every single game possible.
We talked about how Whippo is probably the best Gangplank that we have in Europe. Hopefully, Fnatic fans will get to see it on display this game. I think in particular how flexible Gangplank is.
Okay, doesn't seem to be anything going on.
Is also exceptionally powerful for a team like Fnatic that hits you fast, hits you hard, and it's not just
Nemesis
about,
is very far away
rails
from the
and
mid
like,
lane,
more creative things.
much farther than I think we usually see mid laners at level 1, but it's not that big of a deal. Okay, I see, interesting. So, Oriana using, I mean, it looks like, wait, seems to be kind of a leash, hitting the Raptors a few times maybe.
Yep. He was very well known for his
Oriana doesn't use any mana, but Gragas is starting on Raptors. Design is a healthier clear.
It's also a champion that I think Whippo still has nightmares about.
Shen is going buff to buff, it would look like. Yeah.
No, he breaks out the sweat, does not like it. But I do want to focus on the Shin.
So Shen starting on red and then moving up to the top side and then going blue, Gromp, Wolves it looks like, and then probably transferring to bottom Scuttle, where you would assume that you're going to have priority, whereas Gangplank probably is going to assume early control of the lane unless something catastrophic happens. Wait, oh, hold on, I'll investigate that in a second. I guess not catastrophic, but I guess unexpected maybe. I do wonder how good Shen's clear is generally, especially into something like Gragas, who has a pretty decent amount of AoE clear, so when he's on this side, he can kind of clear against it and then move. He can also move down. He might even be able to, no, probably not. He probably can't double scuttle because of the LeBlanc. So I could also be overestimating the Ashe bottom lane, Ashe Braum. But hold on, I need to understand what happened here.
It's also a champion that I think Whippo still has nightmares.
Okay, it seems like Whippo's letting the wave. No, he's on. It's on purpose. What is he doing? So he's letting Wonder push into him.
He breaks out the sweat, does not like it. But I do want to focus on the Shin while we have a moment to really talk about what it's going to do. Now, obviously, we saw it last night in NALCS, and we talked briefly about it in Champions Select.
So
here's
he
what the Shin
wants to
is
be
actually.
pushed in.
Shin is actually a phenomenal ganker. If you think about how Set is a strong gank in jungle, Andrew was telling me how
Is this is this to make sure that he doesn't get cheesed at level 2 by Yanko? So I don't. What is his play? And if he's not trading or even fighting the minions, then the wave I guess is gonna crash. This is a second wave crash, which is not helpful at all to Wonder, and actually kind of puts him in a vulnerable spot. So maybe that's actually what's happening. But Gragas is immediately leaving. I mean, this makes sense, right? He's going Predator, right? So Gragas has this clear where he does 3 camps and then he goes back to get his boots so that he can actually do something with his rune. But if you have, and wait a minute, when was that ward put down? Yeah, he's doing this to prevent the cheese. He must be. He must think that there's a vulnerability. I guess it's not a cheese. The level 2 gank by Shen, that there's some vulnerability early on by Gangplank that could be exploited by Shen, who starts on blue and then kind of paths up. So if Whippo decides to kind of play more aggressively, he can get taunted because he doesn't start oranges. He has to start his Q. And so if he gets taunted, he almost certainly has to flash, or he could potentially die. But at the very least, it's a flash. So this seems to be an adaptation to that potential play that G2 could do with the Shen. Okay. But then the vulnerability exists on Camille, right? So Camille gets a second wave crash because Bwipo basically didn't touch the waves, or didn't touch the minions. So that means that Wonder is in a bit of a precarious spot, with Gragas having pathed to the Krugs through his Raptors, red Krugs, and then could have maybe looked for something. But I mean, the setup is difficult, right? And it must only be I think it's only to protect against a level 2, or maybe Bwipo screwed up. It's one of the two. So either it's Bwipo screwed up the lane by letting Camille push early, which I don't think is normal. But then screwed up, it seems to be more defensive, and that he's allowing the wave to crash so that he's not really in a vulnerable spot until he knows where Jankos is, or can get an idea of as to where his pathing was. Because after this, the wave is gonna push out, right? And it's gonna push out against him. So the estimation must be if Jankos starts on blue, or he does this path where he does red into blue, which I actually don't remember what the TSM path was for Spica, which I'll have to look at later on. But if that's... Am I putting too much focus on this? Does it matter? I feel like it does matter. Because this decision... Does it cover for self-made even? It might actually cover... Okay, protects against Shen. Leaves him vulnerable. But if we assume that Shen is starting on this side of the map, which must be the consideration, or at least is doing camps on this side of the map, he's going to clear this side of the map and not going to be around for the next several levels. So that means that Bwipo is safe under these conditions.
Actually a small window where you can outplay it, where you can flash away. So technically, because Shin can taunt flash, you have less reaction time, and he's actually better at ganking in that sense. And he's very similar to a champion like a Gragas, who can flash belly bob.
Also gives you that little bit of safety when you can start the taunt and decide if you want to flash, rather than having to use the flash proactively and then hoping that you manage to find the connection.
In terms of his jungle clear, Shin has been buffed up a couple of times over the last, I don't know, it feels like 20 patches at this point. But one of the tricks that you can do is if you use your Q at 1 minute and 17 seconds, you can actually time it that you get 6 empowered auto attacks for the incoming buff on red or blue where you start, and that actually keeps him very healthy when jungling, even though he's not the fastest jungler himself. So he won't take Krugs and Raptor Camp that fast, but he will stay very healthy. His ganks are very strong, especially if he has flash, and once he has level 6, he gets to farm indefinitely and just appear for counter ganks.
And our observers have been following Jankos, and you can see that he went from red into a full topside clear, back into his Raptors, now he's pathing up towards topside, because with lane priority in the top lane, initially you would expect the topside scuttle, but they're looking for a dive onto Bwipo.
Caps is already out of lane. This is what Fnatic
And
needs
this
to stop him
would
from being
be
able to do, because Bwipo could
very
be
easy
full
for him to
well
get out of.
Channeling the recall right now will be able to escape, but if he TPs back into this lane, that could be very dangerous for the Fnatic top laner.
I think for now, Bwipo's going to be fine. Notice that he's just waiting for a little bit more information. They're going to notice that the TP is going to come through from Caps into the mid lane, and now Selfmade has his eyes set on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, Selfmade making use of the counter gank where he is walking out of vision, whereas Bwipo...
I mean, perhaps... Okay, so... Either it was either I was entirely wrong as to where Jankos wanted to go, or this is an adaptation to the position that Bwipo put himself into, which means that because Caps was going to have priority, right? Which I already assumed. So Caps was going to have priority. Shen could move to either side freely without really being spotted. his bottom lane maybe allowed this to happen, or I'm completely oh, again, I might be overestimating Ashe Braum, but if I'm not overestimating Ashe Braum, which again I might be, uh, assuming that they should generally have control, or maybe it's level dependent, whatever. In any case, so Perks Mickey end up getting pushed in slightly. I think they actually might have gotten wave into the tower, but so they're kind of on this side. They're on the defensive side of this lane, which means that Shen can't really go for Scuttle on bottom. But Whippo is vulnerable because if you move camps with them, they can go for a 3-man dive fairly early on, which should work just fine against Gangplank. It doesn't waste too much time either, and arguably, I mean, it takes the teleport away, so it gives teleport advantage to Wonder. Huh. But let's say it was done the other way. Let's say Bwipo pushes the lane. Or maybe he doesn't even have that option anyway. I feel like he does into the melee matchup. Into most melee matchups. Camille being one of them. He gets pushed in early. I mean, how many minions did he give up? I wonder how bad this looks right now for topside. I actually really want to see the wave. Hold on, I can look at the wave. What is going on? Wait, Bwipo literally just like the lane is just impossible for him, I guess. Is it really this bad? Because he chose to be pushed in. Then he is still down in CS. Even if we assume he got these 3, which he didn't, but even if we assume he got these 3, this is the same wave as this right here. So that would be 15, but then she's gonna have 28. He missed basically 2 waves. He just didn't get 2 waves somehow, without really being pressured to do that. Also, Gragas could have pathed differently, where he's able to match this potential play here. And so if he starts bottom side, can he do bottom side? No, he should be able to do bottom side no leash. Maybe he's too unhealthy if he does that though. Maybe that's a consideration. So if he does bottom side, even if he gets a leash, bottom side, which probably is bad, but let's say he gets no leash actually, just for the sake of humoring this made-up scenario that probably doesn't actually matter in the long run. So let's say he gets a bottom side leash. Does 3 camps bottom to red, uses Whippo's pressure to look for topside scuttle. I feel like this early game was really painful, actually. Like, I mean, Gangplank is fine still because he'll be able to ramp up, but Camille being ahead of him is a pretty bad situation. And it's pretty painfully ahead of him. It's not like, oh yeah, you know, it's one. No, it's 2 waves at not even 4 minutes. Yeah, this seems pretty bad. And I feel like this has nothing to do with the Shen pick, right? So far, I mean, he could have been Lee Sin, he could have been Elise, he could have been almost any champion, and it would have been a similar scenario. Also, Jin seemed
Following Yanko's, you can see
to,
that
He has flash, so he won't take Krugs and Raptor
while
Camp
this is
that
happening,
fast, but he was very
go
healthy. His gangs are very
on a
strong.
recall. I don't know if that's...
Attacks for the tricks that you can
Hold
do
on, can
jungle
I
clear,
see what the
but
lane
Shin
looks
has
like
been buffed
bottom?
up a couple of times over the last,
Do they ever
I don't know,
pan down
20
there?
patches at this point. But one of the tricks that you can do is if you use your Q at 1 minute and 17 seconds, you can actually time it that you get 6 empowered auto attacks for the incoming buff on red or blue where you start, and that actually keeps him very healthy when jungling, even though
Also, there's the Ashe consideration too. How much did Ashe
And then hoping
see?
that you manage to find the connection.
in terms of his jungle clear,
How
Shin
much
has
did
been
Ashe
buffed up
see?
a couple of times over the last, I don't know, feels
She specifically, Perks specifically launched it on blue side because he wanted to, because you can tell the pathing of on Gragas base and his next relative location based on the camps, right? So he doesn't aim it to like go across the entire map because that's pointless. With this, he already knows basically all he needs to know about Selfmade's path, which tells him he's going to be on the bottom side, and given the fact that his bottom lane is pushing in, he's likely going to take bottom side scuttle. Because he really can't access topside scuttle because of the way that the solo laners are. So Jankos is freely able to walk over. I think that if they see that these camps are down, right? Let's say that the game goes exactly the same, but Selfmade does the reverse. He starts on blue side, and then he goes to top side. They see that the camps are dead. I think that this doesn't happen, and Whippo is defended. I think that Caps and Jankos do not move to top side, preventing, or not preventing, causing Whippo to fall behind. This is obviously hindsight. Then there are other there's the Gangplank seeding the lane factor, which maybe it's how that lane goes. I don't think so, but I think that the mid lane is pretty much unavoidable the way that it is. Maybe you could argue that Orianna might be able to kind of press further, but like not let the lane just like get pushed into Orianna's turret. This is a lot of consideration for not a kill, by the way. This is nothing. This is nothing. I don't think almost any analyst would look at this and go, and here is where it all went wrong. At 3 minutes and 5 seconds. I still think that this is an interesting game state right here.
And our observers have been following Jankos, and you can see that he went from red into a full topside clear, back into his Raptors. Now he's pathing up towards topside because with lane priority in the top lane, initially you would expect the topside scuttle, but they're looking for a dive onto Whippo.
Caps is already out of lane. This is what Fnatic need to stop him from being able to do because Whippo could be in for a world of hurt. He's channeling the recall right now, will be able to escape, but if he TPs back into this lane, that could be very dangerous for the Fnatic top laner.
I think for now,
Yeah, he basically has to give up another wave until you can confirm that LeBlanc is there, and then even then, I guess TP's fine. If he's full health, it's probably too difficult with a low health. So I mean, here we see the potential for the bottom lane gank, right? So this is what ends up happening here with Selfmade chooses, okay, well, you're trying to make a play on the bottom side, or I'm sorry, on the top side. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna make a play on your bottom side. They weren't even necessarily vulnerable. What exactly happened?
Where he is walking out of vision, whereas Whippo actually had a ward sitting in that tri-bush, so he saw that G2 had made their way up there. Here goes Selfmade.
Hits the wall, Selfmade goes in, Perks is ticking down, and burst blood Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean,
and again,
that's really difficult to avoid.
They were punished very heavily by Hansama and Vander just
It was saying hit the wall and still pretty handily killed. perks, and 3 summoners used on bottom side. I mean, this is a really, really successful gank. And funnily enough, I'm not going to spend as much time. Because I don't think that the lane state, I don't think the game state is that interesting here, right? So yeah, they got a kill here, and they got, and this is seen as like a really good gank because, you know, you get 3 summoners. But I think that this was almost I mean, not expected. There's definitely a world where it doesn't happen. Maybe Perks was a little too far into this area when he maybe should have been down here. But then you're actually more likely to get hit with a hook directly. Hold on. How did their
Mid lane, and now Selfmade has his eyes set on the bot side of the map.
Yeah, Selfmade making use of the counter game.
Okay, so he puts down the ward.
Where he is walking out of vision, whereas Whippo actually had a ward sitting in that tri-bush, so he saw that G2 had made their way out there. Here goes Selfmade.
Maybe they. I mean, they know that this is a possibility. It seems like Wonder is going to just walk to lane. Maybe he's waiting on something. Now he's walking to lane. Okay, I think that the walking to lane is pretty good because it allows him a lot of leeway in his like his use of TP. He can kind of like fix a lane state if it gets ruined by the opposing jungler or a mid lane or something. Or he himself ruins it and he's like, ah, well, I have to use TP to fix this problem.
Is only going to bode well for Fnatic in this early game.
And Cap's using the sweeper, fairly early sweeper, but I mean this is an assassin who wants to roam around, it makes sense. He actually misses the ward, so that's unfortunate, but it's pretty fine.
Now he has been spotted out by some clever vision from G2, just walking over that ward there as Hilly and Selfmade are backing up Nemesis to make sure they can get this wave.
Wait, how did they put down that? Oh, no, this is... Oh, I think this is Shen from early on, right? Yeah, this is early right here. Right here. Right, as this is happening, Shen is on the Raptors, and he put down a ward. This is kind of the reward for the play on top side, the Raptors, and the ward on that bush. But Selfmade kind of, I mean, he gets, I guess you could argue, the better end of the stick. It's probably not even arguable. It probably is just the better end of the stick, right? This is a big wave to miss out on your AD carry, so it's a pretty big disadvantage. And now it's almost certainly going to be a Jhin favored lane. I mean, it's just pretty big here with the pickaxe versus a longsword call. Pickaxe call versus longsword call.
He has CS leads at the 15-minute mark as well, and actually almost did as much damage as Reckless did last weekend.
Now he has been spotted out by some clever vision from G2, just walking over that ward there as Hilly and Selfmade are back.
I was saying here, help pushing in the wave. I don't know why he would even want to hit that hook. It actually put him in danger. Okay, Selfmade, Selfmade is walking, Hylissang to lane. Not really likely to get perks or Mickey X here. Mickey. I don't think the X is actually pronounced. Gragas doesn't really have a place to go. Could have gone to his Krugs. But he basically... What did he do? This seems awful, actually. It was really unfortunate. Because he... I mean, maybe he clears the counter jungle? Yeah. Wait. Did he not even... Did he not? Oh no, he got the big raptor. So he clears the counter jungled raptors, and then he gets no camps at all. Gets seen on the ward. It's just, I feel like impossible regardless. I mean, I don't know how these 3 champions at this level get LeBlanc. Let's assume that they're all standing where Nemesis is. I still don't think it's possible.
This is a really good example of how to guarantee a safe lane, but also to help get priority through mid.
Okay, Selfmade walks Hylissang back to lane. And then he can't really do anything, so he has to back and go back top side.
Things are going to slow down just a little bit. But yeah, I like how Selfmade and
He
Hillside
didn't.
working together. Very
I mean, he didn't have any
classically
camps,
for the
right? Like,
FNC.
this is
Hillside on
just
the Lawless working
an
with,
unfortunate
Selfmade. TP has been invested from Nemesis. I noticed
timing.
level 6 and G2 have their eyes set on
Bwipo is almost certainly dead.
things are going to slow down just a little bit. But yeah, I like how Selfmade
And they should know this. Okay, this is actually a really, really good ward, by the way. Man, that is a really good ward. That's so value. So Yankos is kind of moving up here, gets spotted on the ward. I mean, Bwipo should immediately be running backwards. This is what was gonna happen, right? In fact, it seems as though things have kind of almost equalized, despite a 2-wave lead on Camille, which should have been pretty unbearable. I mean, there's a clear statistical advantage on Camille, so Bwipo should not really be vulnerable. I mean, he even ults the wave just to clear out and not have to deal with anything.
And you can see he was just backing, waiting, spending his time. Hillesang's gonna look for engagement.
I feel like this is a little strange.
Mickey actually just uses the stand aside me to get back.
And a lot of action already in this early game. G2 constantly cheating up towards the top side of the map, while Selfmade and Hilly are really forcing bot side. The
Okay,
flash
they're
goes
really. I mean, Frostgurn just said that. I mean, they're really forcing. This is.
It's a story of missed skill shots in the bottom lane. Everyone will walk away a little bit wounded, but still very safe.
I respect what Hillesang tried to
Because of Shen, I mean, this is
do there though.
really difficult to do afterwards, right? So they're trying to maybe snowball the bottom lane so that they can kind of equalize the attention that the top laners are going to get.
Bot side, the flash goes wide, and now Yankos is here.
I feel like even if he hits this hook, I don't know if. Yeah.
Flash goes wide, and now Yankos is here.
I wonder if I really wonder if First is actually still dead.
In the bottom lane, everyone will walk away a little bit wounded, but still very safe.
I respect what Hillesang tried to do there though. It looks like that he was going for Mickey, and then he immediately.
Hillesang, by the way, has not taken a camp yet. Hillesang is, or sorry, Selfmade hasn't taken a camp in quite a bit since his gank bottom. 2 ganks bottom now, and 3 in fact. He got 3 ganks bottom, or I mean 1 I guess kind of close to a dive, and then attempted gank, didn't really pan out, wasn't going to happen. And then this one where he was between towers and still didn't get anything. I mean, Shen isn't also really capitalizing. Oh, that's not my. That actually scared me. That
This Raptor camp in particular.
I will say Vedius didn't actually touch that on the screen. Of just teasing him a little bit is now off our screen, thankfully.
Okay, but I do want to talk about Hilly because we've so far seen him really team up with a lot of Fnatic and Selfmade.
Gragas should be looking to clear through top lane, up through top lane.
And what I think is really unique about that is it allows Fnatic different, if you will, formations out of their recent.
Hillesang does not spot out the ward that he is spotted out on,
proximity
which is just unfortunate.
Of any supports in our league. He hardly ever spends any time with Reckless.
I mean, I can understand why he wouldn't look into that bush for the pink ward, the control ward, but I mean, Reckless is now in a pretty bad spot. Can't really do anything without Hillesang. They know Hillesang is around top side, not really close to Reckless, so they could have maybe gone on him, but it doesn't seem like they wanted to. I guess if they had the ultimates, they probably would have, but they didn't, obviously. This is really unfortunate that he didn't scout out the that ward in the top. Selfmade does see it. He actually, yeah, this is fairly common for jungler to just kind of walk into this bush. Then he runs away because you realize, there's probably a reason for that ward to be there, and Caps also is not in the lane, so he has to cede the red buff thanks to Caps. The CS problem is still pretty bad topside. It's gone back to basically where it was. I actually don't really understand how. What happened there? We look at. So then there's the. So here they were about even. Wave is coming in. He takes all 5 of those. He's at 46. Oh, I guess that's actually the same. Never mind. So never mind. The advantage is still there. It's just that the wave wasn't finished.
so far seen him really team up with a lot of Fnatic and self-made people
Yeah.
on the map. If you
So
actually look at Achilles,
big discrepancies in the bottom and in the top side.
Any supports in our league, he hardly ever spends any time with Reckless, and what I think is really unique about that is it allows Fnatic different, if you will, formations.
Hylissang isn't really doing too much outside of the lane. So, I mean, as Frostguard is talking about how it's useful for the support to not have to be tied to their AD carry ball and chain, but the issue is he's not actually accomplishing anything, and he's leaving Reckless in a semi-vulnerable spot where if he stays, I mean, it's really weird dichotomy, right? Where you have Hylissang moving, but you have Selfmade's putting in a lot of time to snowball the bottom lane. So you have a person who's leaving the bottom lane vulnerable, and another person who's working with the bottom lane to make sure that it can snowball. Seems backwards almost.
So far, that unpredictability has secured them first blood. They're about 300 gold ahead. Let's look to see if there's any major CS deficits. I was a little bit worried with Whippo. He fell behind Wonder early on, but he's been able to keep in with about 5 or 6 CS, meaning he's only about 100 gold behind.
So I'm now looking at level spikes for both sides, because you'll notice that Reckless has already hit level 6, Whippo hit 6 a little bit earlier, but more
Looks
importantly,
like Wonder missed out on a minion or two. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. Never mind, the advantage is back on. Fact is actually kind of expand. No. This is the next wave should equalize it again. Should be about 10. But with Shen being in the jungle, I mean, then Whippo has to be wary of this. 2 champions isn't really enough to get the the Gangplank, but he has to kind of be wary. He might be pushed out of the lane, especially if LeBlanc can move. If Selfmade can get this dragon, actually, that'd be insane. He needs to look for this dragon. What was that? Wait. What was that?
Pretty safe. It was a little bit too
But
proactive from Mickey. Selfmade comes down towards the bottom lane. Going to use that oracles. Make sure that there's no one spotting in. But while this is all happening, see the Shen on the top side of the map. There's the current call knockback on Mickey. Perks able to dodge towards the side. Stand United coming in Spurs as well. Hylissang's got the kill on Mickey. But there's the choice on Selfmade. Caught underneath the tower for the moment. He tries to flash away, but cannot escape. G2 get their first kill of the game. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Whippo and Wonder are fighting. Wonder's dodging around as much as he can, but Whippo's winning out that trade.
Good skirmishing on the top side of the map.
So I started the game. Before the game. I was talking in the Champion Select about how getting 1 dragon for Fnatic's composition early on, like, almost guarantees them the game. Because how G2 want to win is through a snowball. Snowball generally is helped rather significantly by dragons. Obviously, you can just snowball so hard that you can just kill your opponents anyway, no matter what the conditions are, and then just steamroll the game. But generally, in a competitive professional league, you need the dragons to some degree in order to win the game. If you take one of the dragons on Fnatic, that means it'll take 4 more dragons to spawn. So from this point, let's say that at the exact same time as Shen is doing the Rift Herald, which, by the way, they had spotted. They knew that this was happening the entire time. The entire time. So when does he do it? Right here. Right here. They know he's on it. So they know he's on it. If they look for a dragon trade instead of this, instead of looking for a play on bottom, which is fairly neutral, and especially once Mickey uses the whatever it's called, I want to say Glacial Fissure, whatever, the Braum ultimate. As soon as he uses the Braum ultimate, you think to yourself, well, I mean, now there's no vulnerability. Now there's nothing that's actually hurting my bottom lane. They can't get killed. I guess Hylissang could still get hit with an Enchanted Crystal Arrow, but generally there's nothing that's gonna kill these champions, right? Especially because Perks is fairly behind, and even with these minions, I don't know if he actually hits 6 anyway. Still, so you know that Shen is on the Rift Herald. Why don't you just take the dragon as a trade? Extend the game by minimum 20 minutes. So now you have a near 30-minute timer for the conclusion of the game. 30 minutes is what? 2.5 items on the majority of your champions? When does Gangplank really want to fight? 3 items? Or just when he's ahead in general? I mean, Oriana is fine fighting whenever, because that's just, he's not really gated by that. In fact, she's going this, what is this build? What is she doing? What is going on? What? This is, it's like almost sad looking. What is this? You know what? This is it's fine. I'll critique it if it gets like really awkward later on. Because if this becomes like a first item Banshee's Veil, I'll be pretty surprised. It might be. Might be. Would it be that bad? Wouldn't be great. And then like 3 item Jin is pretty strong, very strong. You know, 30-minute timer at minimum, right? 30 minutes. Seems really good. Seems like you can just seed the next 3 dragons, fight on 4th, fight at the 30-minute mark, and you're just going to come in with more items, and if you just stay stable, you just win the game. That's very simplistic and reductive, but far more in line with the strategy that they seem to be coming in with compositionally than going for this attempted snowball play for your bottom laner, who, by the way, has had their support roam around. I guess this is kind of benefited Reckless because he's level 7, but he hasn't really been able to expand the lead in the bottom side. He's 12 minions up, which isn't super, that's not too much. Also, I mean, there's 4 here, so he's only about 8 minions up, which doesn't equal the advantage that is happening in the top side.
Clearing his camps and setting up the ganks.
Glacial Fissure was used there
Like
onto-
right here, it is Glacial Fissure, right?
Ruins
Hold on.
every jungler's day, but Pathing
Hold on.
clearing his camps and setting up the
Medic,
ganks.
could you please?
Glacial Fissure was used there onto-
Yeah, it is. So you should be taking Dragon, 100%, 110%. Yes, Rift Herald is bad, but you've already seeded Rift Herald. You're not taking Rift Herald. Take what you can on the objective side, and then go for a play bottom if you can, which I don't think is even possible. But even if we assume, okay, this is gonna get pushed in, and then the lane is neutralized while Selfmade is still around, and he's not gonna go topside anytime soon because the only camp is the Krugs, and I mean you just hope that Bwipo is safe in his lane, because he's on bottom side anyway, right? So he can't even help Bwipo. So if he can't help the Gangplank, he should probably be doing. Yeah, I'm spending too much time. He should have done Dragon.
Safe. I think it was a little bit too proactive from Mickey. Selfmade comes down towards the bottom lane. Gonna use that oracles. Make sure that there's no one spotting him. But while this is all happening, see the Shen on the top side of the map. There's the curtain call. Knocked back on Mickey. Perks able to dodge towards the side.
It's a good cast, though.
As well. Hillside's got the kill on Mickey, but there's the toys on Selfmade. Caught underneath the tower for the moment. He tries to flash away.
But the Stand United,
Escape. G2 got the first kill of the
I
game.
think,
Meanwhile, in the top lane, Bwipo and Wonder are fighting. Wonder's dodging around as much as he can, but Wonder's winning out.
pretty
Good skirmishing on the top side of the map, and a pretty even trade towards the bot side.
And again, I mean, they
They're
just
right
didn't
on
even
perks, but they're gonna
consider
sell
it.
the kill onto Mickey.
Maybe that was the consideration.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Maybe that was the danger that they figured. That if... Okay. I want to know the location of Mickey the entire time. $8:10, he's around... Hold on. 8:30 is around Dragon. No. Wait, his sweeper comes up anyway? I thought that maybe there was a way to argue that maybe they thought that Mickey had warded the dragon, so it would have made it difficult, and then they could have fought on the dragon with the Stand United coming in to prevent the dragon from being taken, and then basically leashing the dragon for G2, which would have been even worse than getting a kill here and then...
And setting up the ganks.
Flash Fisher was used there onto Hillsang. He was pretty safe. I think it was a little bit too proactive from Mickey. Selfmade comes down towards the bottom lane. Going to use that Oracles. Make sure that there's no one spotting him. But while this is all happening, see the Shen on the top side of the map. There's the curtain call. Knocked back on Mickey. Perks able to dodge towards the side. The Stand United coming in Spurs as well. Hillsang's got kill on Mickey. But there's the toys on Selfmade. Caught on the tower for the moment. Use that Oracles. Make sure that
I'm sorry, what
him,
happened?
but while this is all happening,
What did Hillsang do to nudge himself like that? What did he do? Oh, okay. He didn't need to do that, for the record. He could have held on to the... If he trusted in the Ignite burn... I mean, his hook comes in at the same time. Wait, how many charges was that? 1, 2, 3. He had another one. Yeah, he didn't need to do that at all. Could have used the hook on to one of these two. Probably would have put him in more danger, honestly, but Selfmade flashes hit perks. Okay, Bwipo is, I mean, despite being behind, is still doing some work into he's just dead. Still doing work into Camille. Oh, we're motion sickness time.
So because they knew where Selfmade was, they expected that this gank was a possibility.
Whoa. It's really bad when it's 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed. I think at normal speed it's perfectly fine.
It's also the power that while this is all happening, the Rift Herald goes down. So Genkos gets the Rift Herald top side and then also answers the play flat side, helping them pick up the kill.
We get all the information, then of course because
that is just yeah, they just this is more production. Oh god! It's production for just no reason, just anyway, let's take stock of what take stock of the game right now. Looks like Shen just counter jungled the Raptors. So Selfmade is again sad. Nemesis can't really do anything about the priority problem. Maybe I'm selling Orianna too short, and maybe I'm giving Nemesis too much credit. But I think that generally it's too difficult. Orianna would leave herself vulnerable to Shen and to Blanc if she tried to push the wave. So probably better that she's just farming up in line with Caps, who isn't really getting a lead elsewhere. Is providing pressure across the mid lane, mostly towards the top side, but.
And now we're kind of waiting again for these ultimates to come off cooldown. Whippos is going to be up soon, same for Jankos, and that's where I expect another play to happen.
See the Rift Herald is still sitting on Jankos as well, about half that timer has expired, so expect him to use that.
So now the wave is pushed in. G2 look like they're set up for a dragon as soon as Shen walks down after doing Raptors red, most likely, and then looking for a gank on bottom is probably how it's gonna go. I don't know how oh, he's... What was that? Wait, what was that? Okay, weird graphic. Oh. What is that? Wait, was that his ult? I guess it was. I think it was Reckless's ult. Looked really weird. Okay. Little too much. So Caps just got a double kill for free. He just walked over, took 2 kills. Nice. The one thing that they don't want to do, and they do it.
It also means kind of disaster zone. You're the last person that you want to see start picking up some kills is Caps, especially
As Frostgurn is just saying.
It feels like everyone's like, can't G2 versus Fnatic. For me, in G2's current form, although I think game 1, it already looks
it's a little unnecessary.
Versus Caps. And now Caps is set up to succeed, as Nemesis also now in trouble.
Does have Flash, will use it preemptively there. Don't want to get those concussive blows up front on you, and Nemesis is now 15 CS behind, 2 kills behind, and it's going to struggle on this Orianna for the next while. Wonder trying to trade into Bwipo.
Wonder is 20 CS ahead of Bwipo, and Bwipo's just dead.
And that is a very dead
then United, pretty good. Nemesis can't really do anything about this. He could maybe try to prevent taking the entire tower. But frankly, if you're Fnatic, wouldn't you kind of rather them take the tower so you can set up a long lane that you can hold against G2, because again their strategy seems to be more focused on 3 items than on 1 or 2 items, which means it's going to be far later into the game. And it feels like a lot of the aggressive plays that are happening, especially post 6, have been kind of negated, or that the plays that Fnatic are making post 6 are putting them in more problems because G2 are responding to them properly.
I'll do everything that he does and more, and I'm only
It
gonna
looks
throw
like
away my
Nemesis maybe is just dead anyway. Yeah.
Nemesis with the shotgun hits. 3 exhaust still there, but the arrow will chase him down. There's the taunt, and there's the kill to Perks, and it's all falling apart for Fnatic.
Oh, look at the counterplay bottom. While it's all going wrong for Fnatic topside, Caps just picked up a kill.
Caps manages to
Hey, it's away!
flashes away. He could go back if he wanted. Caps still want a piece of this.
my 2 solo lanes.
Wonder's actually going to jump in onto Nemesis. Nemesis with the shotgun hits. 3 exhaust still there, but the arrow will chase him down. There's the taunt, and there's the kill to Perks, and it's all falling apart for Fnatic.
Oh, look at the counterplay bottom. While it's all going.
How did they get? Wait.
Jungle meta, can he fit into this style? And he's like, you know what, I'll do one better. I'll take set. I'll do everything that he does.
Why is Hilla saying where he is?
I'm only gonna
Bottom.
enable my 2 solo lanes.
What is he doing? Please investigate this man for competitive integrity purposes. What is that?
Oh, look at the counterplay bottom. While it's all going wrong for.
Look at Hylissang's body. As far as I'm aware, LeBlanc does not have some ability to move a body to any location. So this is Hylissang who walked over, hit a ward somewhere in here, and then Caps killed him. Because he doesn't actually have control over this area. Nemesis is on top side. What was the consideration? That he was going to be able to freely get this ward, Caps was going to follow Nemesis to the top side, and Nemesis was going to get screwed over? Because either way, right? This isn't beneficial to... There's no world where this is okay. Pretty sure.
Fnatic topside, Caps just picked up a kill.
Caps manages to
Hey, it's away!
flashes away. He could go back if he wanted. Caps here want a piece of this. He wants a little bit of the action as he dives forward on a self-made. The chains don't quite connect. Reckless forces away his former teammate and self-made, and Reckless will walk away wounded.
And for majority of the early game, Fnatic were the ones that were throwing the blows. They were the ones who were pressing the action there and kind of dodging out Caps roaming towards this top side. But as soon as Jankos has access to level 6, the map has completely...
So the long lane has been set up.
Are starting to run away with this game.
A lot of people question why is Caps our MVP. It's because he does things like this. When he gets champions like LeBlanc, when he gets champions like Zoe, his outplay potential is real. And Selfmade is trying to read Caps here. He thinks that he's going to go back in. He doesn't know. He delays it. He waits for the W cooldown to come off. Remember, his W is at max level right now, and he's able to go back in and poke a little bit back. So what was a 4-4, what was a dead even game between the two teams, now 7-4, and G2 is sitting with a 3k gold advantage.
And I honestly feel like Fnatic are on the precipice right now. They're teetering on the edge of a cliff, and G2 are just ready to push them over, right? Like, it's only the first game, but after Fnatic had such a good start, to see G2 now just totally slam them in the last few minutes is...
Bobo is not really able to freeze. This is going to just end up being slow pushed and then taken by LeBlanc, who's just going to say, oh, thank you for the massive wave, I'm going to leave now. Or maybe even just tease fighting against you.
Because there's no pressure for either team's composition to need to stack dragons. And as we talk about, slowing the bleeding, because I do agree with you, they need to make sure that they're more high percentage plays.
Okay. I wonder was super dead, okay. That's fine.
My favorite thing about that, though,
Fine.
is still the fact that there were 3 members of G2 in
Do they end up getting...
and now that they see that Selfmade bot, Nemesis is in a lot of trouble.
Jankos looking for the taunt. Won't quite connect on it. Nemesis with the shockwave. That's going to pull Jankos back underneath
Okay.
the and Jankos takes about 4 tower shots there. Perk's still
And
lane.
no one wants the dragon. Alright, no one wants to...
Okay.
Pretty sure dragon's okay. Whatever this is better than I don't think that this is better than dragon.
The CC had been used. Jankos knew that he had an all clear there to just ult himself out of that one. And G2...
Roskern's saying that neither team really cares about dragon, and I wonder if that's actually true. I feel like that's not really the case. Yes, Mountain Dragon isn't high value, right? Oh, Seraphs and Merc Treads. Okay, that's fine. You get Mountain on Fnatic's composition, even if it's one Mountain. Increasing your time of... it increases how long you're alive, even marginally. Probably not massive, but it's something. I mean, funnily enough, if Fnatic had taken that first dragon at around 10 minutes, the dragon would have been up, and maybe it'd be more enticing for G2 to take it.
Had been huge. Jankos knew that he had an all clear there to just ult himself out of that one, and G2 came to play today. You are no longer seeing the mechanical mistakes that you saw yesterday in their series versus Rogue. Every time Fnatic and G2 meet, they always elevate each other. They always bring out the best, and this is what I want. I want two teams playing well and one team just playing better.
And right now, it feels like G2 are the ones playing better. Look at the CC combination. He does not have any summoner spells. Nemesis does not respect the ultimate. He gets CC down and self-made. He tries to make the hero play here. That ultimate was beautiful. The flash E coming in, but Mickey's able to just flash out in time, meaning that Selfmade can't get any kills. And as you said, Frost, no more CC left, meaning that the Yankos can just get out with the Shen ultimate. Beautifully done by G2.
I mean, last time we saw Fnatic G2 in the finals, it was spring, and G2 came in with the Kog'Maw, with the Lulu, and totally upset the expectations of the series. Here, it feels like they have done the same with this Shen in this first draft. They brought a new pick in, they've done some dark technology, and it's
so this is a very, very, very late Mountain Dragon. Very, very late. And actually is all in Fnatic's benefit. Very, very deep. I wonder if... Nope. It's fine.
Meanwhile, the mid lane tower with the target hit G2 as they continue to up the tempo, up the pressure, and the arrow connects on the Hylissang. He'll be able to use his anchor to get the hell out of dodge.
So now all tier 2s... Oh, no. Now all tier 1s. I was going to say all tier 1s, but only top and mid tier 1s are dead. So, I mean, the Elder timer and the... So the Elder is 25 minutes from now, right? So that is in 42 minutes. 43 minutes, pretty much. At minimum. For Elder. 38 minutes for a Soul. For a G2 Soul. It could be a 33-minute Soul for Fnatic. Assuming they get all of the next dragons. I mean, this is all to Fnatic's benefit, right? This is the same. This is a very similar scenario to where they were previously, in their series against G2, where G2 have a snowball-y composition. They are snowballing, mostly because Fnatic are kind of giving quite a few inches away. Maybe not playing as safe as they might want to. Some kills are less egregious than others. I think that I would be more willing to give a pass to Nemesis's deaths, even though they are probably easier to see, because there's no one that's like surprising them. It's just, oh, they would just kill you because we hit an arrow, right? And then on top side as well. I mean, he was just surrounded. I mean, ambushed is a harsh word, but I think that Hylissang probably doesn't need to have died those 3 times. I think that a few of the bottom lane plays probably didn't need to happen. But so far, I mean, if Nemesis is the only person that's dead, or that has died in this game, I think that Fnatic are like, ah, whatever. Not the end of the world.
They are attacking everything at once, and Fnatic are doing a good job trying to keep up, but that's what it is. They're trying to keep up. They're trying to survive this onslaught.
I think that Fnatic had a good game plan coming in, right? When you have Jin Nautilus, this 2v2, very strong, very powerful. It was G2 that actually demonstrated initially with how powerful this 2v2 could actually be during the regular season, and the fact that Selfmade invested so much. You can see 1, 1, and 4. He's been involved in every single one of Fnatic's early game kills, and when we talk about Selfmade, we weren't kidding. He is the linchpin when it comes to making a lot of aggressive plays. He is the guy that's supposed to elevate Fnatic to be able to take down G2. They did it last week, but so far in this early game, the problem I find for Fnatic is that they couldn't stop.
So, just for the record, here's another thing. Yes, G2 are snowballing, but it is a 1.6k lead. As far as I'm aware, this is not a game-deciding amount. And it feels like G2 are running the map, right? Which means that they've gotten extra gold from towers. So that means that there is standing gold available for Fnatic that doesn't exist for G2. Now, they don't have it, right? But if they break a tower, right? If Fnatic gets a tower at some point, or another tower, you know, you diminish the gold lead by 500 or so. Now it's about a 1k gold lead. Is 1k that massive? Not really. You have a very strong Jhin. You have Gangplank, who doesn't really want to do anything aggressive still.
And Caps is just an avid reader. Every single game, he just finds who's going to be his book salesman. He's like, okay,
Nemesis obviously can't really do anything aggressive into either Camille or LeBlanc. All have their teleports. Wonder does not have his teleport. 3 minutes on the Cloud Dragon.
This is a long series. We'll see how things progress. Maybe Fnatic can still come back. But right now, Wonder has his eyes on Selfmade.
I don't know what we're doing here. Now they're just surrounded. Alright, so let's alright, I need to know why is Selfmade here? What does this matter? Okay, let's just take stock. What is it, 2:53? So, in 2 minutes and 53 seconds, this dragon is spawning. His control ward does not die because it is permanent, because it's a control ward. The control ward is on the defensive side of a dragon pit that they would have to go over a wall to get to. The G2 had to go over a wall to get to. Why does Selfmade need to take this vision? Like, shouldn't they just be willing to give up dragons? Like, imagine showing up at the 38, 33 minute. No, 38. They could straight up be like, all right, we'll see you in 37. At minute 37, unless you dive us repeatedly, which is very difficult to do if we aren't like out here, right? And we don't give you extra advantages anymore. Nemesis is pretty vulnerable, right? He's pretty vulnerable to LeBlanc, Caps, Yankos, Chanted Crystal Arrow. Whippo is less vulnerable. Selfmade and Hylissang might be enough to deter aggression, unless it's all 5 G2 against 1 tower. So like if all of G2 decide to aggress onto this bottom tower while Nemesis is defending another tower again that is dying, then it is problematic if they do it as 5. In most other cases, they're not really able to take past tier 2. This should be a pretty safe line of vision. The only fear that they should have, the only fear that Fnatic should have, is the Baron. Baron is potentially on the table for G2. But there's so much long range vision and damage dealing that they can use, that I don't even think that's feasible. Best case scenario, he gets that ward and walks away. Worst case scenario, this exact thing happens. Gangplank ultimate really doesn't do anything.
And G2 got what they want, though. You know, there's nothing for Fnatic to get down there. Maybe a pick off of Wonder, but meanwhile, the rest of G2 immediately run towards mid lane, shove those waves in, and we'll get better resets.
Yeah, the awkward thing for Fnatic right now is they're stuck on the bot side of the map. Look at Shen and Ashe right now, just stealing the entire top side away. So Selfmade, he ends up dying. He's got nothing to come back to on the map. All of his farm is being denied. He's now 2 levels down. What gets engaged on?
Able to interrupt the hookshot wall dive there, but Mickey's still in range to make sure that
no shockwave, so I don't know why they're aggressing. And Caps comes in to complete more things for his Magi's.
the counter kill on Nemesis.
Sign of desperation there from Nemesis and Hillsang. They spent so much time.
I don't know what's going on.
Once again, for Caps to show up, and yes, you got that kill onto Wonder. That's a good bit of gold, a nice little shutdown. But as you rightly said, that's more stacks on the Mejai's for Caps. This mid laner, this MVP is continuing to ramp up. He's now found self-made.
He even chases him. Couldn't see him at all, but managed to get a chase and it dodges away from the... Okay, Caps, you're styling on him. It's a little bit too much for game 1 of the series. Please hold something back.
Okay, coming into this, Vedius, you and I were talking backstage. How would Fnatic solve the Caps problem? How would they hide Nemesis or protect him? Because the thing is Larson had a great series.
How would we solve the Caps problem? Probably by not needlessly aggressing onto areas that we don't need to aggress onto for any particular reason. I think that would be a good start. Yeah, that's a good start, I think. You would also just ban the LeBlanc and not deal with it. That is also another thing you could do.
But now Fnatic has a team, because this isn't only on Nemesis. Fnatic has a team.
As LeBlanc is seen as a very strong champion for Caps.
They let this get out of control, and either they switch it up and they try to give Nemesis more firepower rather than just surviving the lane to hold him down, or, I don't know, you start throwing 20 bans at this guy. I don't know how to keep him out of the game.
I think a lot of responsibility also falls on Hillsang to be able to find successful roams. We saw him come mid very early on into the game, and we'll see if he can find more picks, but it seems like Caps is the one that is currently on the hunt. And I think what's interesting is...
Hillsang is guarding the wave to kind of prevent anyone from hurting Whippo while he establishes some farm for himself. Okay. So now the earliest any team can get a soul. So that's 3 more dragons. 3 more dragons. 15 minutes from now. 37 minutes. Probably more likely 38 minutes. 38 minutes. Who wins at 38 minutes? Is Soul the only win condition? I don't think so. Not the only one. It's definitely the most secure. Now, Ocean Soul really doesn't help G2 almost at all. I guess it would help them survive some of the extra damage. That Shen is really doing wonder. Just realized that's the top laner's name. Is really doing a lot of work.
Right now, it feels like the Fnatic came in with a good game plan. They executed through the bot side of the map extremely well, and it gives me hope that throughout the rest of this series, Fnatic is definitely looking competitive and they're ready to play. But game 1, it seems like G2 has shown their cards, and they're looking very convincing.
Now, as we take kind of a reset and Wonder, and look at kind of the game state as it is and what will be the next steps. Naturally, all the outer towers have gone down for Fnatic. Fnatic should start grouping up a bit more here.
So this is becoming even more difficult over time. Baron is now a real objective. G2 are not really super fast at taking it, but if Fnatic let G2 have control over the map, and given the fact that they don't really have control over this entire side right here, they kind of need to keep this in the back of their minds at all times. Holding onto their abilities to make sure that they can always prevent a sneak. Wait, Sam United is like the shortest cooldown ever? Like, I guess. Yeah, I guess it was 23:33, and then the whole minute later, yeah. More than a minute later, like a minute and a half later. On cooldown, he's already working against this. That was also not even like Nemesis needs to be willing to give up towers.
Okay, Caps actually gonna live, isn't he?
He survives for the moment.
Run, Nemesis, run!
You have a lot more faith in Nemesis than I do right here. Caps.
Run to Baron, Fnatic, run to Baron!
But the problem is, like, what can Fnatic do, right? Like, we talked about their team fight composition, we talked about their possibility of long-range engage, but G2 are just that much stronger right now. Long-range engage will not work. TP flank here as Caps goes onto the back line. Wonder trading here with Whippo. And Whippo will put down the cannon barrage, and Caps almost just demolishes Reckless. Goodbye, Jin.
Okay. Okay, this is getting a kind of ugly now.
Good knockback from self-made. but you have to feel that's way too little, way too late as Caps once again jumps over the wall, and Submade will be sorted up. Caps goes legendary, 17 kills to 7 in 26 minutes.
Okay, yes,
G2
Whippo,
are
where are we
rolling
going?
with Fnatic.
And Mickey is just keeping preoccupied. Notice that the TP is still available for Wonder, and he may well want to give that kill over to him, but this has just been nothing but systematic destruction from G2, attacking Fnatic across the map. The mid laner, the MVP of Summer, is sitting at 8 kills, a fully stacked Medjai's, and we're going to get a look back at this fight.
So he picks up the kill, he backs, he goes to the base. He also has teleport, and let me tell you, as an AD carry main, there is nothing that will ruin your day faster.
That's definitely true, Frost. You can see Reckless just being like, guys, I'm in a safe position, until he suddenly looks behind him, and lo and behold, the Hunter has arrived.
Oh no, it's just, what's the counterplay?
He does everything that he can as
Yeah,
well.
he dodges everything apart from the W. Like, I feel so sorry for Reckless in that situation, and then Fnatic just run down in the end. Like, they try and turn it around, there's a couple of good plays, but they're just too far behind at this point. 8,000 gold down, Whippo now facing off against Caps.
So now it's kind of getting out of control. I think that this Shen is doing a lot of work here. It's actually kind of impressive, almost. Not almost, it's actually really impressive. This time Shockwave.
Alright, Nemesis, he messed up the shockwave there, isn't quite able to land it, giving Paps that very brief window, and that's all he needs. He will lose 10 stacks on his Medjai's, but Fnatic definitely felt that one.
I'm gonna say, that's
So how do G2 proceed? I mean, even with Baron, do you see how much they're taking tower-wise?
G2 also don't have to stop split pushing. Yankees is level 15. He's like the same.
They're not really looking for the towers.
In a normal game is to just sit on a side. Like, look at the XP difference.
I mean, they could have. Definitely didn't need to.
8,000 gold down, Whippo now facing off against Caps. And it's less of a face-off and more of a one-sided brawl as Caps dives forward once again. Whippo trying to get underneath the turret. Chains don't quite connect. Yanko's still tanking enough. Caps dives forward once again. Whippo still surviving for a very long time here as Reckless now opens up. This would be a great kill.
Okay, to be fair, also Whippo could have just left.
Caps still gets the kill. He's still in a 1v5, manages to get a kill on Reckless.
Alright, Nemesis, he messed up the shockwave there, isn't quite able to land it, giving Paps that very brief window, and that's all he needs. He will lose 10 stacks on his Medjai's, but Fnatic definitely felt that one.
I'm gonna say, that's pretty good though. Good trade. 10 stacks on the book, that's like the match kick.
Actually, let me look at the Baron setup. I always like doing that.
Up against Caps. And turn it around, there's a couple. Everything apart from the W. Like,
This is the replay. Hold on.
Like a fully stacked Medjai's, and we're gonna get
playing.
to give that kill over to him, but this has just been nothing but systematic destruction from G2, attacking Fnatic across the map.
Alright, 4-1, 4-1-0, and then you transfer the 4 down to the 1, or you can kill this tower as quickly as possible, I guess, and then you can transfer the 1 to the 4, depending on speed at which they're doing the towers, and then you take one either topside inhibitor, which I think is probably the higher value one, because it allows you to get the dragons rather freely. Not super it doesn't, not really what G2 are looking for. Very obviously, they didn't look for any early dragons. We're playing much more focus on the top side. I don't really think that. I mean, obviously, I always screw up my estimations for the bottom lane, but I don't think it's really so undoable that if Jankos doesn't show up, he can kind of fix any problems, or if Perks and Mickey want to, they could have had more lane control. In any case, so you do 4-1. That you do 4-1, and then you move the 1 to the bottom, and then you move another 1 down, so it becomes a 3-1-1 on the base towers. Or you could focus on, you could gather as 5 onto one tower and then make a 3-1-1, or 1-1-3. I don't know. I always assume it's like super easy and there's like an elegant way of moving around with the Baron buff, but
He also has teleport, and let me tell you, as an AD carry main, there is nothing
Chains don't quite get a kill on Reckless.
Alright, Nemesis, he messed up the shockwave there, isn't quite able
So,
to land it, giving Paps that very brief window.
you do have an 8k gold lead. It should be fairly easy for them to close out now.
That's pretty good though. Good trade. 10 stacks on the book. That's like the match checks out.
It's about sending a message, right? Like,
But also, G2 also don't have to stop split pushing. Yankees is level 15. He's like the same level as Nemesis, and Shen's job in a normal game is to just sit on a side. Like, look at the XP difference between G2 and Fnatic. It really has just been about the solo laners this game.
But this is G2 getting to play G2 style. The biggest issue is that they kept saying, you know, we no longer get to play the style that made us famous in this meta. We don't like to do it. And it was a matter of what would they find to break the meta. The longer that they got to sit on a patch, and it is Shen. That is what has broken it. Thank you, North America.
Who knew that G2 and TSM were secretly plotting to take over the world?
G2 said they wanted to scrim C9, then C9 lost, right? So TSM was the next target for them. G2 in such a strong position here, 8,000 gold ahead. They have 2 dragons, the Ocean and the Cloud.
This should be fairly it should be a fairly easy rundown to win the game. How much longer is there? How does this game go on for this? I mean, I know how this game goes on for this long, right? A lot of
G2 Siege is definitely not weak, but Fnatic's breakthrough is very strong. With the Gangplank, with Orianna, the moment the Baron disappears, it becomes a lot harder for G2 to Siege unless they actually find a successful pick.
that's for nearly 2 hours, and I'm only barely halfway through the game, so the more interesting parts come soon, right? So now they're using the Baron buff, not really super elegantly. They are, I mean, they are basically doing a 3-1-1, pushing in just about the same time, not really gathering as one anywhere. Maybe gathering as one is dangerous because their composition isn't as good at team fighting, but I don't know if it's so bad that with a 10k gold lead they can't just win anyway. Especially when Caps can just one-shot any of the carries, and that Wonder is basically able to solo. I mean, with obviously with Yankos, but okay, manages to get Wonder. They do get the top side. They don't get the top side. They kind of throw the top side. Where was Cups, by the way, the whole time?
You have to execute perfectly. Fnatic still have all the tools.
I remember what Caps was doing. I mean, it must have been minions, right? But
You have to execute perfectly. Fnatic still have all the tools that if you mess it up, they'll take off the whole arm right there. And I think the biggest misexecution was the fact that Wonder and Yango tried to pressure bot tower.
okay, it's still pretty massive lead, right? That's Sterix. It is a Sterix, but he built second item Sterix probably just for survivability, but it doesn't seem very good. How long is that call bit in his inventory, by the way? Interesting. Orianna, I mean, I didn't really touch on it, but Nemesis went for the more survivability with the Seraph's Embrace. It's fine, but obviously it delays them even further. It doesn't really matter because they don't really want to fight, but they were kind of positioned to fight in weird spots or to get caught out.
Meager amount for the LeBlanc, although he has got 19 stacks of add-ons, Death Cap, Ludens, Echo, and a Zhonya's Hourglass alongside the Oblivion Orb, with just that little bit extra magic penetration. Baron back up in 14 seconds, Ocean Dragon 37, but it's not sole point for anyone. So you have to feel G2 are going to try and set up their vision control around this topside jungle.
Yeah, I think the G2 care less about the Baron and care more about finding picks. Like, Hillsang face checking here, he feels a little confident because he has Selfmade and Reckless right behind him, but this is the danger zone.
So right now, I mean, it's difficult, right? Because you would think that a team with the lead that they have should be able to shut down, they should just be able to end the game, like, freely. So Hillsang here, he seems to have Gargoyle, so he's going to survive a fairly long time. What? I guess he was given a redemption? Did he redemption himself? What's going on? He did redemption himself. Hillsang uses a redemption on himself. They are winning this exchange. Can Caps do this on his own? Looks like they kind of threw. Maybe this is what you fear when you gather as 5. But I feel like this is just really misexecuted, right? Like, why does Hillsang live for so long? And where is Caps the whole time? Okay. Why did he stop? You get hit with a cask? What is that? What? Oh, because he ran into someone he ran into the depth charge. Okay. They're playing this like over a wall play because they don't have the same kind of range that Fnatic have. They just lose. I mean, these tight corridors are good for picks, but they're not super great for a composition that gets outranged.
And there was a massive difference there. Reckless didn't have a LeBlanc.
Especially when you're trying to fight over a wall.
Like you said, it's MVP against the world as Fnatic look to take Baron.
What a bite back from a Fnatic. Caps is going back, does have the TP, but won't be here in time. Fnatic with the Baron fighting back.
I don't particularly like Bippo's build, but I mean, you need survivability, I guess, is the idea, so probably not the end of the world going that.
One of the nice things about playing Jhin in this competition is that Jhin isn't really itemized as a tank. He's more of a secondary support at this point, which means that Jhin is going to have kill pressure on anyone. He can two-shot LeBlanc.
Probably fairly arguable that Perks doesn't need a Phantom Dancer. Probably could have gotten a Last Whisper, but I guess Fnatic aren't likely to have that much armor and MR. Okay, they kill Self-Made fairly cleanly. Let me just slow us down. Illisan goes in, ends up dying, and then I mean there was a bit of a reprieve that they kind of threw away for no particular reason because I don't know. What are they doing? What are they doing actually?
Someone out. Having that sustain when one sitting on top of you can work so well. Self-Made just about able to survive with the stopwatch. Cap's gonna pop one of his own. Hillisang trading off towards the backside as Mickey.
I mean this one, to be fair, is I guess I see it. They thought, okay, well, there's no way that we'll just that someone can die here, right? But maybe it was a little probably too much. And when you have a what? How many kills is 10 kills on LeBlanc? It's probably anywhere is dangerous. And they don't even really need to set up the vision around here, by the way. They do not need to ever go into this. This doesn't matter. What does this matter? Just hold tight as a formation into a corridor and then force them to come into you. Wouldn't that be a lot easier to do than trying to establish this obviously very difficult to get vision and then fighting around that vision? I always wondered how much vision is used as a crutch in competitive play. This is gonna be a complete tangent, but there's a world where if they just let's imagine a world where Fnatic aren't even allowed to put down wards. They never go into this area, right? Because it's too dangerous. If they don't put down wards, how do they play? They would play to be together as 5 in a tighter formation. They either, if they're going to fight for this dragon, which I don't think they need to, but I guess if they have to for some reason, I mean they've gathered as 5 around here, so I guess that was the call. Then they can see the movement into them. Obviously, there's ways of getting behind them, which can be bad.
That small pocket of vision,
But
Self-Made does the face check, and then lo and behold, Caps is lying.
None of what I just said had anything to do with the fact that Fnatic
didn't
need to put down vision. I mean, other than the fact that they just didn't need to put down vision. I mean, they don't need to go here. They don't even, like, Self-Made was started, sorry, he was attacked like right here, right? Right here? Why does he need to walk into this area? Why does this area matter? Fight in the river, or don't fight at all? Fight in an open area where you can see them, or fight in places where they can't reach you. Like in your red side.
But then of course the stopwatch comes through here, and then Wonder seizes opportunity, dives into the backline, has the Shen ultimate on top of him, and then committed to this dive. But then Nemesis buying time himself, utilizing the Zhonyas, but at this point, it's already a one-team fight for G2. Fnatic have to disengage, otherwise they're going to lose a lot more than just 2 people.
Yeah, the time bought there on the Zhonya's
yeah, but I always wonder how teams would play. That's a lot of traps. I always wonder how teams would play if vision wasn't as easy to establish, I guess. Or if the way that vision was established was very different.
Reckless is in a perfect position to carry on this Jhin.
And I want to talk about the Reckless Hour. It's a very
Like maybe you
special
can't
time
even
that
establish
happens in
vision.
G2
I wonder
and
how
Valorant
it would
games.
fundamentally
If
change
a
the game,
game
but I wonder
is
if it would
decided
make
by a gold lead,
players work on their
within 30
intuition
minutes,
more so
G2
than
have a
vision.
massive win
And
window.
going for vision that
They
isn't
beat
necessary.
Fnatic early, they smashed
Okay,
them.
so
Now,
Bwipo has
if
the
Fnatic
Leandry's
do manage
Torment.
to survive post 30
There is
minutes,
this
when 80
giant
kills
graphic
finish,
here that doesn't help anyone do
play
anything.
the game
What is that?
is
Wait, actually, what is it? A record? LEC all time. Under 30 minutes and over 30 minutes?
superstar
Okay,
ace.
interesting.
The issue is that normally Reckless doesn't get to play the game when he faces G2, but now he is set up to do so to perfection on this Jhin, and maybe
So, the
he
gold
will
lead
be
has
the
been
difference
pretty much
maker for Fnatic
evaporated.
in the same way that Caps is the difference maker for G2.
In a strange turn of events that no one could possibly have foreseen, the team that wants to snowball, who never went for dragons, is delayed, and then had Fnatic played cleaner around the dragons, or around the dragons, where they allow things to drop, knowing that they can't really grab the base, and that they can still they should be able to still walk out of their base, establish defensive vision, prevent them from getting the Baron, and even with the Baron, do they have very good siege? It's okay, but it's not super great.
Throughout Fnatic struggles, this split has been the consistent benchmark.
As a 5v5 unit, Fnatic know that they're better.
That's always been Mr. Consistent. That is what his title has become throughout the years, and I think that Fnatic would not find the amount of success they have without him. So now is his opportunity to shine once more. He has 7 kills on the Jhin. He's going up against his former teammate of Caps. But the question is, which one can come out on top? The Fed mid lane assassin or Reckless on his Jhin?
So now it is, I mean, the lead, I think the lead is basically gone in terms of what the champions bring. I mean, Bwipo's build is all kinds of unfortunate. I don't think he really wants to have to go all this survivability. What? What? A little forward. So G2 kind of threw, and Fnatic are kind of coming back due to the throw. G2 were kind of hoping to go for a fight rather than just using the 1-3-1 to choke Fnatic out and then use Caps to pick off immobile members of Fnatic, which is all of them, except for, I guess, Selfmade. Selfmade is very vulnerable because Arcus doesn't really have MR.
But the big key things are that both the teleports are available for Wonder and Caps. It only takes a single ward, a single minion wave for Caps to get better position here, as we are lining up for a big fight for Soul.
Look at top lane right now. So what Caps is doing is he recognizes Nemesis does not have Sonya's yet. With the stopwatch gone, Nemesis the moment he gets that will be able to stall a lot more. So Caps is trying to find a pick before he can get it, because that's the windows to be able to get themselves about.
Okay, so Ocean Soul is now theirs.
They're trying to catch Caps in the top lane, but Caps is well out of there. Of course, LeBlanc very slippery, even if they can find the connection. Caps still has a tower, a tier 1 to fall back to if he wants, but he's just going to wait in this push.
Disaster. And this is
It's
usually,
great for G2.
this is usually how G2 would beat their opponents. They'd be able to outmaneuver them on the map. That's why split pushing made them such a
Okay,
powerful team. When
bit of a
now
weird
they're
call
there.
there.
The Souls were so powerful, Baron was so powerful, the meta turned into more team fighting. Suddenly our better team fighting teams like Fnatic started to rise up in the rankings.
Even
Alongside the
still,
Magic Pro, but
what is the avenue for G2 to win? I mean, they have to 5v5 Force, right? At some point. And with Ocean Soul, you'd think that they should be able to do that. Or they could wait the 6 minutes until the Elder Dragon.
Very capable, even stronger in a straight up 5v5. So G2 need this Baron to be able to split up and separate Fnatic, because right now I think that's the only way they're able to actually break into the base and
And huge pickup as well. Lily also getting his locket just now. So you have the redemption, you have the locket, you have Gargoyles don't play. Hopefully they keep Reckless alive through Caps' burst damages. Caps probably gonna trade his life here.
Got caught out, Shocker comes down, he's going to use the stopwatch, gets the inhibitor. Meanwhile, the rest of G2 are setting up around this Baron. Hillsang's going to get caught out with the arrow.
Okay, he gets the inhibitor. Lithang is very much alive thanks to Stoneplate. No one is really able to die. Bwipo is flanking on Gangplank, which is interesting, but fine. They are kind of retaliating now.
in a 4v5, G2 are able to hold the line this time against Fnatic, and with Caps respawning in 9 seconds.
How is this able to happen? Because one of the most fed, by far the most fed member, frankly, on G2 is dead. So, I mean, everyone's probably very close to full build anyway, so I guess being strong is relative to what your champion can do. Okay. So, misses those shots. Fine. They are missing a lot of their ultimates, for the record. whereas G2 still have Hextech Ultimatum.
Perks dived on by Selfmade, but he's going to flash out of the back of it. Whipper's still on that front line. Here's now going in, joining his teammates. Selfmade's down. Perks gets the
Wonder's
kill.
putting in a
Here's
lot
Selfmade
of
once again. Vector's trying to get the damage.
damage.
Those shots are too slow. They're too
Not
weak.
real, and they
Wonder
without
does
the
not
ultimates they
back.
can't
Incredible
really
stuff from Wonder as he just stands
play.
up.
Did they use pretty much all of them on?
G2 have been able to disengage.
Here comes
Illisan
Whippo.
survives. Here comes Whippo, teleporting behind Perks, but G2 have been able to disengage.
Here comes
Illisan
Whippo.
survives. Here comes
I feel like
Whippo.
once you've lost your cask, you
Behind them.
can't really
He's
go
got
for this
the GA,
anymore.
He's got the stopwatch. He's got a long way to survive. Nemesis stepping forward as the curtain call comes down, and Wonder rejoins the
Okay,
fight.
Reckless
From the bottom
misses.
side, it's 5v4 in favor of
Really
Fnatic.
unfortunate.
Perks dive
Don't really have the
down.
damage to do anything because their damage dealers are way too far back. Reckless is way too far away to hit anyone. He finally gets into the fight. He's still gone, by the way. Where is? When does he come in? Oh, he's hitting minions. Hold on a second. What does Reckless do in this fight? Okay, he roots someone. Auto.
Caught out with the arrow, the rest of Fnatic on their way. The hook comes in. Hillsang still has the gargoyle, still has the redemption, still has a lot of shielding. Selfmade trying to get into the middle of the fight as the redemption comes out from Yankos. He's buntlining, knocked back by the Caskers Perks, but G2 have been able to disengage.
Here comes
Hillsang
Whippo.
survives. Here comes Whippo, teleporting behind.
Hey, he gets a root.
Remember, he's got the GA. He's got the stopwatch.
Gets his
He's got
thing
a long
cancelled.
way to
Another one.
survive. Nemesis is stepping forward as the curtain call comes.
Misses the fourth one, so he hits 3 of those. They don't really do any damage. And they kind of just bait his team into fighting this. And then he hits a root, and then he hits a auto. Not even his fourth shot.
Still on that front line. Hillsang now going in, joining his teammates. Selfmade's down. Perks gets the kill. Hillsang stepping forward once again. Vector's trying to get the damage up, but those shots are
That's
too
unfortunate.
slow. They're too weak.
What does Nemesis do here?
Flash out of the back of it. Rejoins the fight from the bottom side. It's a long way to survive. Nemesis stepping forward as the curtain call comes down, and Wonder rejoins the fight from
Okay, doesn't really hit the
the
Q.
bottom side. It's 5v4 in favor of Fnatic. Perks
Hits the
dived
Q
on by
there,
Selfmade,
hits a
but he's
QW.
still at the back of it.
Kind of dancing around, not really able to do anything. Doesn't have a shockwave. Put a shield on people. Yeah, I mean, everyone's already used everything that they want to use. And they went so far forward past where Reckless can fight that instead they are doing the exact opposite of what their composition is supposed to do, right? So this composition is designed to be to front to back, and they went hard in to G2, which saves Wonder the trouble of getting into the opposing team, saves Yankos the trouble of getting into the opposing team. I mean, Perks was on the wall, was behind a wall, so he wasn't even vulnerable to anyone. Seems really unfortunate.
And in a 4v5, G2 were able to hold the line.
I mean, they also have Ocean Soul. Let's not be real. Very difficult to win these fights.
Able to get away with that. Caps taking an inhibitor, end up trading 1-for-1 overall, and G2 also lock down the back.
Oh, with no jungler alive, this one is going to be free. Like I said, a TP from Caps comes into the mid lane. He immediately starts pushing out the wave. And surely with the hot inhib down, with the Baron now collected for G2, they have everything they need to really destroy Fnatic's base and sink their team into a possible game 1 victory.
It's taken them a lot longer than I think many people expected, but they have managed to take.
I almost feel like
So G2 are setting up around this Baron. Hillsang to call out with the arrow. The rest of Fnatic on their way. The hook comes in. Hillsang still has the gargoyle, still has the redemption, still has a lot of shielding. Selfmade trying to get into the middle of the fight. The redemption comes out from Yankos.
if Selfmade hold on to the cask, I think you can threaten the Baron on a 4v5 without Caps being alive. Because the arrow is dead, the fissure is gone, then United and Ultimatum are still, of course, around, which can be problematic in around this area, but it's... There's definitely a world where Fnatic can win this fight. In all fairness, this is because G2 threw. This is not... A lot of it is... The big mistake that G2 made allowed all the small mistakes that Fnatic made to kind of fizzle out and negate each other. And then here they had the opportunity to win if they made the more measured decision, I think, which might be the more difficult decision to make.
Managed to take everything off the map. G2 in a strong position here against Fnatic. They've been forced to show all of their cards. Caps going in. Look at that healing from the ocean.
I think this is the end of the game. They come in as they do the 4-1. Obviously, top inhib is already dead. They take the last inhibitor. G2 don't win. Actually,
both teams doing everything in their power to stop only game one from ending. There's still a whole series left to go, and Fnatic are able to do it once again.
But it wasn't just Reckless this time around, it was a huge team effort here from Fnatic, especially Nemesis with a crucial shockwave. Perks get caught right here. Thank you, Observers. Hilly with the hook right onto the Ashe. He brings some friends with him. The ball
what is G2?
Left the line.
Hold on.
Hillzag for down, and G2 continue on the. So we'll come back, heals himself up to the
I feel like there's multiple things going on.
G2 continue on the offensive. They continue to land punch after
So here, this is fine, right? Don't really need to go aggressive. Wonder does. Instead, he could have been more patient on the inhibitor, killed it. Would have been all 3 inhibitors are dead. You can, I guess, if you're really, really patient, I don't think you really need to be, but if you want to wait the next 30 seconds, so that you can get the 6 super minion wave with the 3 inhibitors down. They just come in with the Baron buff. I mean, this is just actually very, very simple at this point. You barely have to do anything as G2, and the game just ends because there's no way that Fnatic really have enough wave clear to be able to clear it out. I guess. I mean, maybe they do. But with that many minions, it becomes really, really difficult to both fight off the massive minions that come in all at once and fight off G2 at the same time with the Baron buff. So instead, they're a little impatient. Wonder goes in, gets a chunk. And even then, we're like, that's understandable. So he gets out. Perks a little far forward. Hillzag hits the hook. Very, very good. The shockwave is really massive. Caps kind of just meandering around the fight. What is Caps doing this whole fight? Caps is on it. He's on it. He's on the objective. He's like, all right, well, we just take the thing and then we win the game, right? Like, Caps actually, no, he goes into chunk Hillzag. He almost gets him. Okay, he walks back into the shockwave, which chunks him massively. Then he just gets bodied by the next sets of damage. Wonder uses the Baron recall to get out as quickly as he can.
It is just both teams doing everything in their power to stop only game one from ending.
This is definitely not the kind of game that you want to see if you're a G2 or Fnatic fan. I think both teams are making some really unforced errors individually and team-wise in terms of like decision making.
If you have a look at the damage taken graph after this game, I feel like Hillzag's going to be really far up there. But like unbelievable, only in game one both these teams are so neck again though. Fnatic stopped G2 from ending the game. The Baron's going to wear out soon. G2 likely to get the Elder Soul. The question is, will that even be enough to end Fnatic's defense?
Listen, buddy, the difference between a tank and an ant is just the follow-up that your team provides.
That's very true. That is so true.
Hillzag's got that above his PC.
It's like tattooed on his.
That is a mantra for everyone, Frost. I love that so much.
Oh, I will say, it's reminiscent of the words of Perks at the end of last year. He said, we may lose the game, but we will make them sweat for it. And that feels exactly like what Fnatic are doing right here. There's an Elder Dragon up in 17 seconds. Their emotions so down, they were Baron down. It is very likely Fnatic lose this game from this position. It's very hard for them to win, but
okay, so now they're setting up for the Elder, which I'm pretty sure is the end, because there's almost certainly no way that Fnatic can fight off Elder and Ocean Soul. Unless they just kill Caps here. They do kill Caps here. They also kill Yankos here. This is weird. Because you see actually that it's actually really awkward. Look. Nemesis teleports to the base, and then Whippo teleports to the fight. Now I'm pretty sure the reason is that Nemesis can probably fend off Perks and Nikki, whereas Whippo probably couldn't on his own. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It does confuse me a bit, and if I was more interested in super minute, I actually don't think it's that big of a deal, frankly, in this case, but I would be very interested to see the reasoning and the logic behind it. I guess you could argue that Nemesis teleports to dissuade Perks and Mickey from pushing forward, and then Whippo can rejoin the fight. I don't think that Whippo needs to rejoin the fight, though. Selfmade gets picked off. Elder is still on Perks, by the way. They need to be able to kill Perks. They cannot ever. What ends up happening here? Why can't they actually reach? I mean, aside from the fact that I have no idea what Selfmade is doing. What is he doing?
100% agree with you. I think we do
What is he doing?
give credit to
Where is he going? Why does he need? What is he doing? What does he need? Hold on. What are his items? No. Can you please? Okay, thank you. What is he looking for?
isn't here. There's no way they can help him. He tries to get away, but he's locked up, and Perks will get
Okay,
the
so
kill.
let's imagine that Selfmade doesn't do that.
Now Fnatic,
I don't know why he
you've
did
got
that.
your inhib in the mid lane up in 10, bot lane 23 seconds.
I'm not
with
sure
your
if he
Baron
would
in
know.
24. You have a man
Probably
down
just
for the
chalk it up
next
to
minute.
unforced
G2
error.
just trying to
Not that big of a deal. Then this thing goes for Perks. This makes sense because this is the only target with the Elder Dragon buff, and maybe the only person who can actually win this fight for G2. Reckless not really able to reach Perks. Perks has been just sitting here this whole time. Perks flashes the shockwave, which is really good. Nemesis kind of in a precarious spot. I mean, he had to kind of put himself in danger in order to hit the shockwave, then he dies there due to the Elder Dragon execute. It was actually really well played by Perks.
And try as you might, Fnatic, you cannot stop the oncoming storm. G2 wipe Fnatic out of the rift, and will take game 1 of this series in the longest game of summer.
You said it, Medic. Fnatic are making G2 sweat for it. This is only game 1 of G2 Fnatic, but for now, G2 will lead the series.
Okay. Let's main takeaways. I think that Fnatic kind of lost what got them to this spot. With their more patient, risk-averse play, along with compositions like this. I think that G2 should not be happy with this win. I mean, they can chalk it up to being a banger. It was fun. But it really is not great. It's probably not necessarily reflective of G2's overall ability, but it is problematic when you snowball so hard and then you can still manage to potentially still throw the game. I mean, even if you argue that Fnatic's composition is really strong late game, it's not 10k down, win the game, or be in a potential spot to win the game. Good. So otherwise, everyone would just play this, right? Like, if it was that broken, why wouldn't you play this? Yeah, it's a lot of mistakes. I think that there was a lot of individual mistakes from Fnatic rather than team-wide decisions that were problematic. Whereas G2 made some, I guess you could argue it's, their responses are always really good. I think that that's fairly impressive that they can respond to plays done onto them and always seem to get ahead, but when they make a play, they seem to. I mean, they end up screwing things up on that red side fight, trying to kill Hylissang. It didn't really execute on the Baron for whatever reason. Maybe just. I mean, I don't really want to take too much away from G2. I think that they're a fine team. I don't know if they're going to be contending for a top spot at Worlds, but I would be excited if they did. Same thing with Fnatic. I think that if they clean up, if both teams clean up, they could be legitimate contenders going into the World Championship. So because their individual ability isn't really a question, I don't think their champion pools are really problematic. I think that the way that they make a lot of their team decisions seem to be there. It's just down to cleaning up the like minor small things that push them into an awkward spot like this. This is way too long. In any case, I'm Rojo. Bye. Bye.